Hey guys, just to follow up on the previous video I did, and this one will be for science. So, Witchers are not really a magic casting class, but they do make some use of magical abilities. Now, Geralt and the rest of the Witchers have mastered 5 signs, which are very useful in combat and have some, well, limited use in non combat situations. It's best to use them effectively since they can run out quickly relative to the amount of stamina you have left. So, let's go through each of them. Igni. So it's a basic pyro spell that can burn through your enemies and deal fire damage as a periodic effect. Now, the sign is also useful sometimes if you just want to ignite torches in dungeons or campfires in various areas. Now, bears and drowners are the first few monsters you will encounter in the game that are susceptible to this ability. Let's quickly go over the areas where you can spend your points. So the first one is Melt Armor, the second one is Fire Stream, the third one is Igni Intensity, and the fourth is Pyromaniac. So all signs actually for the, I think the third branch you can pick, they're all increases in intensity, so it's common to all the signs. So also one thing about the all the signs, if you spend points in any of the signs, all of them will increase per point spent your stamina regen. Now, for the Igni sign, there are 4 ways to buff this ability through the point system. The first one is that you can weaken enemy armor if you plan to use your sword strikes more, well, effectively. You can also change up the way Igni works by having it spray fire damage continuously. You can also spend your points in Pyro to further increase the chance of applying the damage over time effect or the dot on your target. And if you make optimal use of your dodge and roll abilities, the periodic damage helps to whittle down enemy health as you weave in and out of combat. The second useful sign for Witchers is the Ard ability. Now, this sign works on the basis of telekinesis, and it pretty much works like a Jedi's Force Push. Now, the basic effect is that it performs a very short stun or incapacitate effect on the affected target. You will especially get to find this ability's usefulness when surrounded by 3 or 4 mobs, basically just to hold them off. Now, the Griffin, which is the first major contract you encounter in the game, is also a good target, or a test target, to negate its ability to fly. Now, as with other signs, there are 4 ways you can buff the Ard sign. So the first one is Far Reaching, the second one is Sweep, third is of course the usual increase in intensity, and the fourth one is Shockwave. Now, Far Reaching can be buffed, you spend a point there to increase the range of Ard. The second one is basically just to increase the number of enemies you can affect with the Ard ability. And well, of course, you have the usual intensity increase. And the fourth one, Shockwave, it basically just adds a damage component to your Ard sign for a dual effect. Yrden, or the snare sign as I would like to call it, is a very useful effect used by Witchers. Now, the standard form of the ability lasts about 13 seconds. When you encounter your first Noon Wraith, you'll understand this ability's increased usefulness as it makes them vulnerable to normal attacks. In my opinion, this sign has the most significant changes to the ability once points are spent on it. Its snare component is also useful in keeping certain enemies out of reach while you focus on another. Now, again, 4 ways to buff it when you spend your points. So the first one is Sustain Glyphs, second one is Magic Trap, third is the usual intensity, and fourth is it's called Supercharged Glyphs. Sustain Glyphs simply increases the duration of your Yrden sign, which makes it easier basically for you to just dodge and blindside your target. Now, the second effect, which is Magic Trap, does 2 things. So the first one is that it adds a damage component to your Yrden sign, and if you are able to position your sign in between yourself and a ranged mob, then you can negate the projectiles. Of course, you have the usual intensity increase, and what the fourth one does, that's Supercharged Glyphs, is that it drains the vitality of affected targets who are, well, encased in your Yrden sign. The next sign that Witchers can use is called Axii. So, this Jedi-like mind trick ability of Witchers has many different uses. It has the ability to completely negate a mob's threat for a limited time, but remember that it has a cast time. Out of combat, it can also make certain encounters much easier by persuading NPCs or other characters. It can be buffed by spending points on the following. So the first one is Delusion, second one is Puppet, and Axie intensity, and the fourth one is domination. So this mind influencing sign has several additional tweaks to it, as you can see. So delusion makes you eventually stall an approaching mob while casting Axie. You can also charm a mob to fight for you for a brief amount of time with a buff to its damage, or you can also increase the number of targets affected by Axie through the domination trait. So the last sign that Witchers have is Quinn. So it's a Witcher's protective shield against many attack types, and it holds up relative to the amount of health you have. It initially starts with 5% of your vitality, so upping your vitality values also boosts the strength of your Quinn. This ability is really useful against boss encounters or when facing really powerful monsters. The ones you have to watch out for are those monsters that really just take away like a huge chunk of your health, maybe half your health for a single blow. Now, the basic use of the shield allows you to survive combat. However, optimal use of it requires a little more coordination with the armor type you wear and maybe adding in a stamina pot. Now, wearing medium armor, for example, wearing medium armor increases the stamina regen, your stamina regen, and if you pair it with a stamina pot, you'll find that you'll be able to use Quinn quite often in difficult fights. So just remember, one tip is that to cast Quinn before engaging so that you can have a full stamina bar just before the fight. So to buff this sign, you have the following options. First one is Exploding Shield, the second one is Active Shield, third one is the usual intensity increase, and the fourth one is Quinn Discharge. So, Exploding Shield, it simply just adds a pushback effect if your shield gets depleted. You can also modify how it works by having it as an active shield that is maintained by your stamina, and that is through the active shield trait. But one more thing about that is, as you can see right there, is that it also restores vitality when the shield absorbs damage. And the intensity, and the fourth one is Quinn Discharge. What it does, it's simply a damage reflect modifier to your existing Quinn ability. And those are your 5 signs. Now, as mentioned in my alchemy video, the story mode of the game won't require optimal use of your signs. However, progressing into higher difficulties or taking on tougher mobs, if you're the type who just wants to wander off the beaten path and just find really tough mobs, then that will require better usage of your abilities. So every aspect of the game will require coordination to make Geralt a more effective killing machine. That's from the pots and oils he can use to the signs, the type of armor being worn, and many other things. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and thanks for watching.